Hey, what's going on, everyone? Phil here. Waiting on Cruz. I don't know where he's at. Maybe he's out on some misadventure or some adventure out there. But the show must go on. Maybe this is just something that we're going to be expecting from moving forward. This could just be the Phil show. Who knows? But hey, we're going to keep the show going. You know why? Because I think it's important to document some of the things that we're experiencing, especially in real time. And on top of that, to be honest, it's actually kind of fun. We get to speak our mind, and one of the things that keeps us anchored, or at least keeps me anchored for a lot of stuff, is making sure that I stick to a team. And on top of that, being reliable. That's what I aim to do. And again, there might be some certain things that Cruz is doing. I'm not really sure what he's up to, but I got the controls in front of me. There's actually quite a few things that I do want to share as well. Some quick updates and some certain requests that came up from the previous videos that we had, where people were interested. There were several people that were interested in the food covering the topics that we were talking about in regards to food, especially since many people can't travel out there. So again, I'm Phil, and I'm here live in Ecuador. I'm here for a couple of weeks, and then I'm going to be heading back to the U.S., which I don't know how I'm going to be dealing with a cold because it's been quite warm here. Like today, it's actually been a little bit cloudy, but regardless of that, I mean, I'm in shorts. Actually, I should probably show you. So I got these funky shorts. Originally, were not mine. These were actually a buddy of mine from back home. And I've actually had them for a long time, several years. And I figured today was kind of a more kind of dress down day. Actually, almost every day is a dress down day for me. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot of things that I'd like to cover. So I'm going to be heading back to the U.S. and I have a special surprise place that I'm going to be going to once I get back. Obviously, we're going to do the holiday things for a little bit, and thank goodness that so far, as my understanding goes, that there's no heavy restrictions yet in regards to traveling, especially out in the U.S. I know certain states. Oh wait, we got Cruz here coming in hot. He's coming in hot. All right. Whoa, orange.
You.
Must be getting ready for the elections.
Yes, 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 yes. Uh, what's going on? What's going on?
It's going. It's going. We got everything started up. Um, you know, just giving people the lowdown. Didn't know. Now, just to let the audience know, I mean, I didn't speak with Cruz since last Monday, so he's out and doing his adventures. And actually, in the blog post I posted that that you were actually went out sailing, and then obviously if they wanted to get your direct perspective on it, you guys can watch the previous week's video where he talked about his adventures out in the ocean.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but I also explained like, oh, you're going to be out in Croatia for at least the next couple of weeks. So
Yep.
so
Yeah, definitely. Still out here for another couple of weeks. We're supposed to originally. I told you before. We're supposed to come back this upcoming Friday, but just with where it was falling and everything, uh, we ended up extending it out a little bit longer. They had canceled one of my flights too. You know how it is. So right now, a lot of places like they're canceling connector flights. So you'll have your itinerary, you'll have everything where you're going, and then one of the connector flights will get canceled.
did they
Sometimes it's so.
did
Go
they
ahead.
swap like a connecting flight on like the day before? Say if it was your flight from like England to the U.S. Did they like swap the flights? That's what they did with mine. So I originally had like my Saturday flight, and they finally switched it correctly to Sunday. But they had my flight from Guayaquil to Florida on Saturday, but they had my Guayaquil to Florida. My Florida. Yeah, so my Florida to Massachusetts, Florida to Rhode Island flight on Friday. So there was no the bookings company to be able to like fix
Mm.
that. So
Yeah, and then the other thing too, with right now, if you're booking flights or anything right now, I would not. I would make sure I didn't. I would really try and avoid using a third party to purchase the tickets. I would definitely, just in general too. Sometimes a little bit better. Definitely go right through the airline themselves, because when you go through the third parties and flights get changed, and maybe you want to cancel or do anything like that, it's so much more difficult. Like you just can't. Um, you can't do it because the other company actually owns the tickets and they got to release them, and there's usually a whole
oh
bunch
yeah,
of back and stuff like that.
yeah. So and I know that from experience myself.
Yeah.
I'm very well aware of that process. I mean, the whole thing is flights are still excessively cheap right now. Excessively cheap. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Certain ones, yeah. There's definitely tons that are really, really cheap. So,
Like
um,
if you go out at least a month into the future, you get like some pretty excessive discounts. Like
hmm.
it's not even funny like how cheap some of these
Yeah.
things are. Like I was
What?
I was talking to
So,
Wolfie's the other day, and he was saying that one of his buddies bought a family trip to Disney World because one, I guess getting into Disney World was a little cheaper, but the flights and hotel and stuff like that, or wherever they were staying, was just way lower than any other place. So it's one of those things where you either take the risk of like whatever the health situation is, or you just take that risk and go, oh well, flights are cheap, vacation is going to be, you know, essentially I feel like people can do a lot more just because everything is basically cheap. And, um, I mean, why not?
yeah, no, why not? There's definitely a lot of opportunity out there right now to go and travel around and do some exploration. But the, I mean, the only thing that right now is places are starting to. I'm sure you've seen it in the news. Are starting to lock back up, um, especially across Europe and everything. I mean, we've talked about it before. I mean, you kind of just repeating history, right? Didn't you guys just try that a few months ago? And
I don't know what the logic is. You know, maybe there is some reason other than it's a political reason, but I feel like there's the data itself. I know one of the key data points, and it's not that I've been doing like excessive research on this, but there's like, oh, the number of increases in like France it's very close to the actual number to the U.S. But that could be like amongst many different factors that could contribute to that type of that data skew. Like, yeah, there's a larger population in the U.S., but as far as like implementation of the tests and how they get reported, is another thing. And I feel like, at least from my experience doing the PCR test in the U.S., I mean, I got my results less than 24 hours. So,
mhm.
you know, and it was free. So I look at that and I go, um, like the speed of of how tests were being conducted may have contributed to, oh, okay, maybe the level of tests showing positive, is starting to level out because of the number of people that are already taking tests. And that's not counting all the other different organizations that are putting these tests together. So again, it's like how they're coming up with the data and how they're coming up with these reasons, to lock places up. I mean, it's just I don't know. I don't. Me personally, I just don't see the logic in the whole thing. But maybe.
No, so here, they're talking about potentially doing some stuff. Maybe, it's nothing set or anything yet. But the one of the, we've met a lot of people around. One of the people that we've met, a gentleman, Clive, he is over here from the UK, actually, doing DJing at a bunch of the spots that are out, a bunch of the smaller bars, a bunch of the smaller locations doing the DJing there. He came over. We were talking to him the other day, and he showed us some of the some of the pictures and some of the videos from August this year here, just August.
August. Okay.
Yeah. And the place was packed. Like it wasn't normal busy, but some of the spots that he showed that were outside, we're talking about one area that was having a party that was DJing. It was, outside full packs, 500, 600 people right there going till 6, 7 in the morning.
Wow.
And that's the way that it was just in August. I guess a lot of the people stopped coming over here. He said that it changed in like 1 week almost when like France and the UK started putting them off Croatia on the red list, meaning you had to quarantine when you came back in. So if you're just a regular person going for, say a long weekend, because UK or France to over here is like an hour, 2 hour flight. It's a quick flight if anybody wanted to go and have fun and come for 5, 6 days or something and then fly back.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, But the second you go on that, that changes a lot of people's opportunities, right? If they have something that they're going back into or anything like that. So long story short, he said around that time that they were popping maybe like 10 or 15 or so, like positive COVID tests a day, like really absurdly low number. And now it's spiked up to like 700 to like even 1,000 positive tests a day. But how does it even relate? Like if you look at what was going on right then in August, as opposed to the amount of people that are here now, like the difference between 7 to 1,000 a day, it just doesn't add up for this stuff like that. Not like in a necessarily in a conspiracy theory manner, but you're testing more, things are going on. So now just because you know about it, you're going to change how things are operating when you guys were operating in a much, much higher capacity not that long ago, and everything was basically fine, right? So it's a little rather odd uh, as far as how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's what's really bizarre is like I feel like there's other factors that is kind of being ignored in the whole process. There's this central focus on like, oh, this is a health crisis. But what about the other variables that account for how that affects people's lives? Outside of the whole health spectrum. It's like if people can't go to work and make money and whatnot, it's like how are they going to feed their family? How are they, what I mean? How are they going to keep mentally sane? Like we're like all these things are just
Impossible.
almost being completely ignored, and
Oh, completely ignored.
it's a very bizarre. I feel like we're in some episodes of the Twilight Zone or something because yeah, I mean we're obviously like keeping up with like what's going on. Like even for me here, um, I'm in the process of trying to get another PCR test here in Ecuador. So it's right before I leave, so that when I arrive in the U.S., I can let people know about where the resources are if they are going to be planning a trip out, to Ecuador. It's like, oh, hey, this is where I took the test. One of the tests, it's a blood test. You get the results within an hour, but I don't know if it follows the same guidelines as the PCR test, where it's self-administered. You put that Q-tip in your nose, swirl around,
Yeah.
which that one takes, anywhere from, they say a maximum of like 10 days or something like that. But it's those, see, the part that I find really odd is that a lot of places have mandated, like, oh, people you know, have to take a PCR test 3 days before arriving. But the PCR test itself can take up to 10 days to get the results. So it's kind of this weird balance of like risk. The biggest, I think one of the biggest hurdles in traveling right now is doing that PCR test and trying to match it up with like arriving and
Oh,
having those results.
yeah, flying out landing, it's definitely the biggest. If for somebody that's looking to travel and go back and forth, um, of course, say if you're going back and you have to go in the office or go into work, go into a building or anything, of course, the risk is always that you went out and traveled and you're coming back now and you test positive. So now you got to deal with that whole situation, which you would have to deal with at home. But if you're not traveling, it would fall in a different different guidelines, different things as for with your company. But it also is just the timing of like actually getting that PCR test based on when you need it, the hours, how old it can be, when you're gonna fly. Then you got to schedule it. Um, that's really honestly that's the biggest hassle, the biggest headache, and actually like for me was the most nerve wracking part because you got to fly before you even get your test sometimes, before you even get the results,
Yeah,
depending how short the turnaround is.
I'll be
Uh,
honest. I'll be honest too. That was my most stressful time. Was like, oh my god, it's one of those. If it comes out positive, does it show up, exactly, at the right time? You know what I mean? And luckily for Ecuador, there's a 10-day window. So someone has 10 days to, take the test. So it gives this optimal room. But other places, aren't as they don't have it set up that way. So that's what makes it kind of difficult for.
no, so like France, I know, well, France is locked down now, I believe, right? I haven't double checked. But France was 72. Croatia here was 48. UK, I think, was 72. Most of them tend to be somewhere in like the 96 to 72 range, which, 3, 4 days, it's at least a little bit better. 48 is pretty tough to come by.
I don't know where they're coming up with the numbers to go 2 days, 3 days. Like I'm
I
actually
don't know.
very glad that in Ecuador they gave like a really large window because of the results. But I don't know how many other places just came up like 2, 3. It's like how do they come around doing that? I just don't get it.
They're just assuming that they're just trying, I don't know, trying to keep it as short out to guarantee that you don't have it. But I mean, I can see that. We talked about this the other day. Like, I can see that mentality for not wanting people to fly in, I guess, positive or infected.
Mm-hmm.
But I can understand it more if you're coming from to a place that like basically like doesn't have any cases, right?
Yeah.
If you have a place that already has cases going on, the influx of people that are coming in, probably unless they're coming from some absurd hotspot, are not going to really change your numbers necessarily, right?
Well,
I know you don't want them coming in positive. I understand that kind of concept, but it's not going to be. It's not going to be the end of the world.
the thing
You'd have to be
I
at a place that didn't have any infections.
yeah. So
Go ahead.
so what I'm gonna do is direct that question to the audience. Yeah, anyone who's watching, if you guys have any insight on this, have you guys traveled recently, out of state, maybe, gone off to, a bordering country, or if you're from a different country other than the U.S.? Do you guys have any insight as far as, what your travel experience is out there? Because, I mean, right now, at least for me, I don't feel like there's any significant change. I think one of the biggest things, at least here in Ecuador, in the beach, in Salinas Beach, which is 2 towns over, when they closed down the beach at 5 o'clock at night because apparently overcrowding. I don't know, but whatever. But at another beach they don't do that. So there's and it's all it all has to do with like this whole getting sick thing. So it's like I don't know. I don't know. Every place, and I'm actually glad that certain places are not, like imposing, heavy rules and whatnot. Because I think, um, and the thing is too, like even now, it's like a lot of people are out. You know, so obviously it was Halloween just this past weekend, but here in Ecuador they also celebrate Day of the Dead, El Dia de los Muertos. So people are out. People are outdoors. The mall is packed. So they don't have the traditional U.S. style of knocking on doors, trick or treat and stuff, but they do this. They have like a meal. They serve it to people. Give out bread. I like bread. So
Hmm.
um, and they serve this. So in Ecuador they have this drink called bulada, bulada morada, which is a mix of like a bunch of different fruits. It's got a lot of different spices, and it's made with corn flour, purple corn flour. So it has this purple. It's actually really good. I yet have to try it with ice cream. Um, but anyway, people were out and about. There was tons of people, and I was actually very
Huh.
glad to see that, right? Because it's it's like let's just call it what it is. Like this year has been a crazy wacky year. So when people are out and about and having a good time, it's like a fresh breath of air to see people out enjoying themselves and kind of relaxing and things like that. So you know, um, and and it's strange that places are like closing, they're closing down again,
Mm-hmm.
despite the data being kind of, in my mind, a little bit controversial. Like I spoke with a few people that were more on the side of like, oh, this whole beer bug thing is like really bad, and then talking with them recently, they're like, oh no, it's not as bad as they said it was. So people are very well aware of how the data is shifted, how the rhetoric on it has changed, and people are very well. My understanding, people are very well aware that some misinformation in regards to this whole sickness thing is not as severe as people are making it out, or the way the media is portraying it. So, um, and and like you were saying before, like talking with other people, like the sentiment is the same. Like, and like people are just not feeling so burdened by like, oh, okay, here's a sickness thing, but you start asking people, how many have caught it, how many people are really sick, and then it's very difficult to encounter very very serious situations. I mean, you have a few anomalies here and there, but they're typically not as bad. Like I was saying, like a few episodes back, Sophia's father tested positive, but had no symptoms. But he had another health situation that was way worse. So
Hmm.
you know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
where do they encapsulate the information on top of like the results, right? I read an article a while back from NPR talking about the different COVID tests, and one of the
Yeah.
things that they were describing is like the data itself, like the accuracy of the data on the positive results of the test is not as accurate as described, and there could be some, there's a lot of different variables that come into play, right? If someone is self-administering or someone's taking the test, are things in the air already contaminated the equipment that's used? Was it administered correctly? You know what I mean? Like, when it ships to the place to get lab tested, you know, in in uh, in the containers that they're in are being maintained well enough where the results are going to show the correct results, whether it's positive or negative. You know what I mean? There's all these in between variables that take place, not just the results or um, you know, not just the results or when it was administered, but just everything that's the step by step stages of doing this the whole testing thing. There's a lot of variables that can affect what the actual results are. Um, so again, it's one of those things where like I don't know. I think a lot of people are holding this whole COVID
A lot of people are. A
thing.
lot of people. So imagine now you go, you have certain countries, everything that goes back down during lockdown, right?
Yeah,
And then you're going to go into, say, your northern hemisphere, right? We'll say, then you go through winter now. So now you go lockdown, then you have winter. By the time this upcoming spring starts coming around, and it's going to have now been a year, and you're going to be coming out of winter and the lockdown, and then it starts to get nice again. If things aren't like kind of back to normal, people are going to lose their minds.
Oh yeah.
Like people are gonna lose their flipping minds. Like it's um so yeah, they kind of got to get as far as what's going to be acceptable and not acceptable. They kind of just got to come to terms with it. Just 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 come to terms with it. Just let it go. Let it happen. We all know where it's going to go.
Well,
And
well, the whole thing is right. So at least in the Northeast, right? Well, actually, even here, because I noticed like people had a cold here around the same time in like January, February. So during the season of like during the flu season, people are going to get sick. So now there's other variables. Oh, it's been exacerbated or whatever it is. It's like
my
you
who
know,
I forget who somebody dropped the twin pandemic the other day. I was like,
I have never heard that.
I forget where I heard that one. Somebody dropped it. I was like, oh my God, just end it now. I'm good. I'm just ended now. I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
Yep, the twin pandemic.
All right. If you guys, anyone out in the audience there, if you guys have any comments in regards to this, we'd like to hear from you in regards to what your thoughts are. How do you feel about this? You guys plan on traveling? Have some of the stuff that we've talked about, especially some dedicated viewers out there, have we given you more confidence about traveling? Have we not given you more confidence? Where are you guys at in regards to this whole travel situation? How do you feel about the beer bug? I mean, it's all. I mean,
So I can,
it's all anyone's opinion in my personal view about what's going on. It's like no matter what new data piece the media is putting out there, or whatever organizations are putting out there, it's
so you know how,
you just have to look at it with a critical eye. At least for me, it's one of those things where it's kind of like I'll take this with a grain of salt, a shot of
well,
penicillin.
this is the whole concept about, you shouldn't be traveling, you should be responsible, this and that, right? You shouldn't be going anywhere, it's not right. So I can talk firsthand just from me being out here and being in a, second largest city, meeting a lot of people going around. All the people that like actually live here, for them, I would say I really haven't met any of them that have any problem at all with us being here right now. Zero problem.
Yeah,
So when you say whether you want to be responsible or not, you're being responsible when they say it's going to be the people that you're going to be directly affecting, right?
yeah,
Because that's who you would be responsible for. Particularly here, if basically we've met a pretty good amount of people. None of them have any problem with it. How is it irresponsible?
that's it. The same sentiment is here. I was talking with the guy that rents out the surfboard to me along. This was about a couple weeks ago, and he was. I was telling him, I was like, yeah, this is like Omaha is a really good place for people that want to learn how to surf, to do beginner surfers, consistent waves, not too fast, not too large, but you know, he was all about this, talking, hanging out. It was, I asked him, how he felt about it, how he felt about it, this whole thing. He's like, oh no, it's like yeah, they want people to come visit. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah, same. Everybody there, everybody was perfectly fine. Nobody, nobody is having any issues at all. They try and follow the couple little restrictions that they have as best that they can. But more people are just kind of annoyed with it than than actually worried about it, as far as from like particularly from like a business perspective for them. So
yeah,
I don't feel I don't I don't feel very irresponsible by it.
yeah, and well, if anything, I'm going on a limb
Yeah, but
here,
just
but I feel like
go ahead.
the governments are being very harsh about whatever rules that they're imposing. California has some pretty strict. strict rules. Thanksgiving dinner might not be the same for some people. I don't know if you've heard some of the
Yeah,
stories.
it's crazy.
Like,
It's weird.
was it three, like, no more than three people at a
No more than
Thanksgiving dinner? No,
it's
no.
no more than like no more than two different households. You're supposed to wear masks inside. You're only supposed to be there for like 2 hours. Don't no singing. No singing. You don't wanna
It's,
it's
I
some
mean,
like they're really closing in on some like Orwellian stuff. Like really closing in on some Orwellian stuff. It's
oh
really
yeah. And the crazy part is people are going to be following that type of thing. Which I mean, more power to you. That's what you guys are into. And, we're just we're giving our perspective here on that. I I'm glad that where I live it's not that bad,
no.
but it's just crazy
I
to
mean
think that actually exists. Like that's what's
I,
going on.
I mean I think there's a good chance that I'll be flying back into some type of lockdown or at least a rollback at the minimum where it might be rolled back to like no more restaurants. You can't go inside, only takeaway again or anything. Just with the Mass and Rhode Island area spiking up, I know that there's been some talks about that.
Well, I'm hoping because I arrived in the U.S. before you that a lot
Hmm.
of these restrictions are not going to get are not going to be too bad. I did already reserve like an Airbnb and stuff like that, and that worked out pretty well. But it's one of those things where it's like are we gonna run into some unexpected restriction while we're en route? Like
Yeah,
like dynastic productions, but election day is tomorrow. COVID-19 is 100 times more deadly. Mailing your votes now, that's the agenda to become a second term, plain and simple. So, I mean, for all we know, I mean, that could very well be the situation, right? Is that there's a political agenda attached to whatever this is going on. But again, talking with some friends that have different political view, you know, and them talking about the whole beer book thing. It's like they're, you know, they're very well aware about like, oh, the numbers are skewed and stuff like that. So even if someone is from a different, political spectrum, they're having the same kind of perspectives, or at least describing the same types of things that they've been researching. Because it doesn't live in a vacuum. You know what I mean? Like everyone out there is doing research, whether we're looking at stuff strictly to support what we believe, or we're just we are coming across a situation where, like, yeah, like people are investigating stuff on their own. So, whatever political spectrum people are in, everyone's doing their research. There's going to be some diehards, there's going to be some real, people that are like just going to at least project out that this whole COVID thing is super serious, and then there's others that are just going to be like, nah, they're looking at it too. They don't quite, they're not quite drinking the food.
I mean, I know it got the whole thing got a bit politicized, of course. The way people's reactions have tend to be drawn across party lines as far as what people generally say for some aspects, even whether it's true or not. It just has been polarized that way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but the issue I have with it you know, is for the betterment of everybody, not just one side of the left. I think I think a lot of the aspects of this is just a complete disservice to everyone, every single person, no matter what. So
Oh yeah,
it
yeah,
does.
absolutely.
It's irrelevant of that you know what side you're on as far as that goes. And you can only push people so far. Eventually, I don't think that the core base of a majority of the United States is going to go along with this for much, much longer. You've had some people that have, you know, been brought along the morality line and been fed a ton of information by the media and social media that makes them feel a certain way. But that's only going to last so long. People are going to reach they're going to reach a breaking point. Everybody will. Nobody nobody will just conform for that long.
Yeah, I think well we're already seeing those effects. Like we're seeing people going out there. I mean, like I said, here it's like there's people are all wearing their masks and stuff like that. But people are out and gathering places, and rightfully so. For me, it's just like I said, it's such a breath of fresh air to see people out enjoying themselves. Like I said, it can be a lot more packed in bigger cities and things like that. But like you go out, there's people are out at restaurants. Um, I don't know. It's just there is that point, but the part that I'm just very curious about is like, are they going to keep dragging this whole COVID thing? You know, as far as they
Oh,
can
they're
take it.
dragging. I think they're all in. I think they're dragging this thing as far as they can. I think I think they're all in and they got to stick with it and they're going to be trying to drag it as long as they can. Absolutely. I don't understand how or why or what we can do to kind of really force the change on that, but I think they're all in. Uh,
Yeah, but well, it's really um, well, it's made the traveling situation a little bit more difficult. Uh, but I still think, like I said, I think one of the key points, at least from my experience traveling out, for an extended period of time, is that people should prepare for the possibility that you could get stuck in a place for an extended period of time. You know, and I think that might be one of the biggest hurdles that people are going to consider when to travel or not to travel, just because of that. It's like, oh, they can't risk that because they still have to go. They still have to go to work, or they have to go to the office. It's a
well,
car mechanic or whatever it is. You know,
that was the thing that happened here. Like I said, like the Clive, the kid that was taught, he said it was 1 week to the next. The second that the UK and France switch Croatia over to being on the red list, which completely changed people's back and forth restrictions on what happened and everything.
yeah,
That's it. Done, dead. Not everybody has the same opportunity that we have to be able to extend time out, completely work remote, and have that that flexibility and everything. Second, people have physical restrictions that they have to go back home to. That casual trip, that casual flight out, or anything, it's done. It's absolutely done.
yeah. So Educator has a question here. Do you have to wear a mask and social distance there? So I'll let you answer that now. I'll answer it as well.
Um, the mask is yes, you have to have a mask for a couple areas. When you go inside any enclosed buildings, basically, they have you wear a mask. So if you're inside a restaurant when you first get in, you throw your mask on. If you're inside, like if you have to go to the grocery store or bank or anything like that, you throw the mask on. But really, besides that, um, that's kind of, if I'm being honest, that's kind of about it. And it's not always necessarily super strict, we'll say. It's uh it's more of a recommended guideline than a force. There's a couple areas that you always do it, like the banks, the bakeries, the grocery stores, places where like people that may be susceptible have to go as well, right? So like people need food, people need to go to the bank, they need to go to certain things like that. Those places are like without question. But inside at like a little coffee shop somewhere or so, maybe not. If there's some other people around, you throw it on. Um, so it's more of just you're going to be right next to somebody you don't know. Maybe you're a little respectful, but if you're outside or anything like that, and I'm talking about like the waterfront has nothing but cafes across the whole waterfront, and tables are this is prime real estate. It's like gorgeous Riviera frontside. So like the amount of tables you can get in there is extremely maximized because you want to get as many tables in there. And like, yeah, you go. It's fine. It's no big deal. And on the weekends, like they're full, like absolutely full.
Yeah, so that's out of Croatia. In Ecuador, it's actually kind of the same thing. Um, the I think one of the differences is that if you're taking public transportation here in Ecuador, mm, they're not spacing out the seats. Like it's gonna be packed. You know, part of the reason for that, I mean, these buses, like, so a bus from Santa Elena to Olon, I think it's $1.65. So they're gonna pack that bus as much as they can, but you do have to wear a mask. Now, if you are going to the banks, they do have the like the sidewalks and the floors marked, for 2 meters, roughly about 6 feet. So like in a lot of areas, we'll space out like lines and stuff like that. But some of the places are small, so you're not gonna, you know, like they need the clientele to be there. And some restaurants that do have, bigger spaces will space out the tables and chairs. But overall, like the only areas that I've seen the social distancing things are like if you're out in the streets and people are in line, to use the ATM machine or go into the bank, so you will see the spaces. But otherwise, for the most part, like I said, there's just certain situations where you're just not going to get that social distancing aspect of it. And people aren't like freaking out if they're, about 2 feet from them. They're not. They're just like I've had a few times where I was kind of falling asleep on the bus, and the guy working with the bus was just like, "Oh, could you lift up your mask?" That was about it. I haven't run into situations where people were very strict about wear a mask and things like that, or distance yourself from people. It's just there's only so much space sometimes. There's only so much that you can do. I mean, like I know certain stores will have like, oh, they have capacity a maximum of 6 people to go to the store. You know, other than that, it's like like yeah, you just follow. It says down the window, you just follow. That's all it is. So I don't think it's that strict. It really depends where you are and what you're doing. But as far as public transportation that I've taken here, there's not much space between people unless
They're also
unless
pretty. I mean, they kind of let it go here a little bit too. They kind of also. I mean, it's not a big secret that like you can't actually really operate restaurants at like 50% capacity, spaced out and stuff, and even remotely be survivable. Like it just it just doesn't work from a financial standpoint. Um,
yeah, and
so
I mean
if you're gonna have it be open, if you're gonna have it and be open, you're all in. I mean, like let's be serious. Look back at home. You're gonna sit at all these tables that are spaced out, maybe 6, 7, 8 feet. Take your masks off, eat your whole meal and everything, and then pretend magically that everything is not flowing around in the air right next to you, and like we're just gonna play make pretend and be that these few extra tables and this extra foot or two actually really did something. Like, let's be serious. I mean, come on.
well, the funny part is put on your mask to walk in, and you take the mask off.
Yeah, you're just gonna be sitting there you're just gonna be sitting there the whole time. I know you're not gonna be like right on top of somebody, but it's all in the air. Like it's not like it's dumb. I don't care. It's stupid. It's stupid. Doesn't make
Well,
any sense.
I have a gripe with this whole thing, right? So everywhere you go, everyone has like alcohol sanitizers and whatnot. I wonder what the implications are for over sanitizing. And over cleanliness? Like, what type of adverse, like, are there studies being conducted to show this over cleanliness? It should be a case study to determine like what over cleanliness is doing to the body, it's doing, socially. I mean, in itself, it's like there's so much focus on this whole like, oh, 6 feet apart and all this and that. But what are the other implications of all these other things that we're doing? You know, like I think of stuff like okay, how do we make alcohol, right? How is that affecting the environment? How are all these things that of the aftermath of taking certain actions to prevent spreading, super spreading, um, is affecting other things, right? Because like this is going to go a little bit off topic, but one of the interesting things. So I finished reading this gardening book, and I'm not a green thumb by any means, or I'm not good at gardening. I just kind of tinker here and there. But anyway, one of the things that they talk about is that when you add a plant to a place that didn't have that plant, you change the biodiversity of that place even in a very small way. So like if someone goes to a desert and you start adding corn, like you've changed the person has changed the biodiversity of that particular area. So people don't think of like planting stuff as being like a way that could affect the environment negatively, but it does affect the environment. So I'm wondering about all the other implications that come with all these new behavioral changes. So not only does how is it affecting us internally in our health, with the sanitation, the heavy sanitation side, but on the same side is like all the other things that come along with it. It's a whole can of worms that I don't even know or even aware if there's any studies case studies being put into place about the social, obviously there's political stuff going on, but the economic and the biological, scientific side of things, uh, with what's going on in, you know, with this stuff. Like nobody really knows. Everyone's just following these behavior patterns. But what are the implications? What are the other stuff that come along with it? And that's the part that drives my curiosity a little bit in regards to it.
Ready. More importantly, what's going to happen tomorrow? Who you got tomorrow?
Who do I think who's
Yep.
gonna win?
Yeah.
Hey, everyone out there that's
Who
watching
you
the
got?
video, you guys
Let's go.
type in what who you think is gonna win tomorrow.
Who you got?
I'm gonna base it.
Land,
I'm gonna
landslide. Who's taking Pennsylvania? Who's taking Pennsylvania?
I'm gonna base it on the rallies and
The 96-mile car rally. Crazy.
well, I mean, like I was watching video that people been posting videos of them attending different events and stuff, and I mean,
There's a lot of them.
yeah, and the number of people, and my so the funny thing is, right? So you have these marches, for the Trump rally and stuff, and they're always on the weekend. They're always, because they have to go to work during the
Yeah,
week, so,
yeah,
so they have these rallies during the weekend. So. But dude, like I was watching some of the videos of people posting stuff, and dude, there's like tons of people out for a
yeah.
particular candidate. Okay, not the
There's
other not the other candidate.
there's there's definitely been some. Yeah, there's been a lot of fervor, a lot of passion and stuff. Much more so one way or the other. So
Well, the interesting thing. So I'm gonna put this out, right? So an interesting thing is that so Trump has been talking about like vaccines, right? And he's saying it's optional. He's like, if people want to take it, they can take the vaccine, but he's not mandating, you know. And that's a assuring thing. Like if someone wants to feel better about their health, which I think they're getting issued the vaccines for free, but it's one of those things where if someone wants a vaccine, they can take it. But if they don't want to, they don't. You know.
Yeah.
So the option is there. But I know I'm avoiding your question, but as far as as far as as far as I mean, you guys are familiar. You guys watch the show. I'm like I'm not a for or against political parties. They just have to have policies and things that I feel like are agreeable to my views and my values. And to be really honest, I mean, I've caught some of the debates and stuff, and it's like, and I used to work in the energy industry. Okay, so I have some familiarity. I'm not an expert, but I have familiarity with some of these things that are going on. There's there's kind of like these realistic things that just happen in this world that I don't know if it's being just ignored purposely, or if it's just like, or if it's just, or it's just people are intentionally wanting to not put these things into life. So, that's a little bit of a game. Yeah. If you guys have this, you guys put in the comment section who you think will vote,
Oh, I
and
mean, yeah,
who do you think Cruz is voting for?
Bernie Sanders.
You know, you know what the funny thing is? Like I talked with a few people here about the elections and stuff, and people ask me, and I'm even surprised at some of the answers people gave me here.
Oh, yeah.
I
Well, what
was
they say.
surprised. I was like, wow, I did not think that at all. So with that in mind, um, you guys type in who will vote
But who do you think's winning tomorrow?
based on the rallies. I mean, it's to
So the
me.
rallies are good and stuff, but it's Pennsylvania. It's all Pennsylvania.
Well, if you compare the rallies of one candidate over the other candidate in Pennsylvania, and one of the things about Pennsylvania is that it has the Marcellus Shale. And if anyone's familiar, the Marcellus Shale is a huge gas deposit. There's actually certain areas in Pennsylvania. Anyone from Pennsylvania, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a massive shale natural gas um, natural gas deposits in Pennsylvania. So when you wonder how these types of videos are being broadcast live and how electricity is flowing
Huh.
to the computers and how you're able to watch TV.
What do you
Well,
mean? We're gonna be full green by 2030. You didn't hear that?
yeah, yeah, apparently.
Full green. Full green
Um,
2030.
so very very thankful for the people that work in the power plant that keep the electricity going. Okay, a lot of that comes from natural gas because, well, at least in the U.S. there's no there's hardly any coal plants. So let's just wrap your head around a minute for that, and then you can actually people can check on ISO um, the distribution of electricity that's traveling through different areas. So like with Iceland, Winland, with Iceland, California, et cetera, et cetera. you guys can actually see where a lot of the electricity is coming from, and there's different types. But so yeah, so I want to, even though I'm not in the U.S. right now, but I can honestly say that I'm very thankful for people that are producing electricity because it would not make this possible to be able to do what we're doing right now. So I'm very grateful for that. But I also want people to feel confident about that too. That there's things out there that we might not be fully aware of. And we do have friends that work in the energy industry today, and family members, that allow us to be able to do this. So, for me, I'm incredibly grateful. That, it's in like the nth degree, right? We don't really come into contact unless we know somebody who works in the industry about these types of things that affect us on a day-to-day basis. But a lot. I know, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the electricity in Massachusetts is actually being imported from Canada, well, because all the coal plants were closed down. Where's
No more.
electricity?
Yeah.
Where's electricity going to come from, guys? Like you got to produce it somehow. It's I know it's like magic. Electricity is like magic. The reality is you have to convert energy into another form of energy, and that's how energy is created.
Yeah. As of right now, you gotta find something you gotta light it on fire, basically. So
Yeah, and it's there's like this one form of energy that's converted to another. That's basically what it is. Whether it's hydropower or wind, sunlight, whatever it is, it comes from somewhere. So that's yeah, that was my rant about the energy industry. So we're coming into the last 2 minutes of of the show, and cruise. So you had your vacation there, right?
yeah.
So what have you done since your vacation from sailing? And like, what's your week look
So my week now, because I'm back to just working and everything, fully with no vacation time, so we're just off on the weekends. It's been pretty chill. Just got the gym membership. Actually, been using the gym here, which has been pretty nice. Grocery store and work. Then this past weekend, we kind of wanted to take it easy a little bit this past weekend, only because we've been like go 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 go. And it was going to be Halloween, so we actually just friends of some friends that we make. They were actually having like a they have like an art studio where they do all different things. So we actually made these like big paper mache like pumpkin heads for costumes for Halloween. So actually, a couple nights this week is that's what we were doing uh, after work, doing that for a few hours for a few nights, and then yeah, then went out on Halloween, and then kind of just took the rest of the weekend a little easier. Next weekend or this upcoming weekend, we're either gonna maybe head up to Zadar, which is another city for a night, or uh, Plevitsis Lakes is a like a national park that's a few hours away. That's probably going to be one of the other things we may try and do. So toss up which one of those we're going to do this weekend, but that's our upcoming plans for our next thing. Yeah, this week was back to work and then like just kind of a lazy weekend because I mean we've been here a while now, so I mean we've been go 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 a lot. Want to kind of just take it easy. So which you can obviously understand, like when you're actually like go to a place for for a long time, like you just can't keep going. There's got to be a part where you just end up like kind of relaxing and just living for a little bit.
Yeah, and no, it's really great to be able to show people, what's happening in real time. Like, oh, hey, a normal week becomes a normal week when uh, when you have like I guess back to work and stuff like that. It's and it's that's not such a bad thing. So when people get the chance to travel long term to a different place, you know, um, everyone ends up maintaining like some sort of routine. It's not balls to wall, every day, straight ragers,
Hmm.
spraying beer and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So with that being said, Cruz, any other closing comments in regards to the trip, or any recommendations?
Biggest recommendation. So if you ever do get out here, you end up in the Split area. We've eaten at this one restaurant twice. It's called Shug. It's actually S accent with UG, which is like in Croatian means like sauce or gravy. I think I mentioned it in one of the other ones,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we ended up going back there for a little dinner again this weekend. And we even though I wanted the same dish, I forced myself to get something different with the caveat that before we come back, I'm going to this restaurant one more time to get that first dish again. It's the Shug there. It's a small place. The food, I think the food itself has been the absolute, like, the best. Everything that we've had there has been unbelievable, absolutely just amazing. And then on top of that, the quality for price and everything is absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable. We're going out, you know what I mean? It's Croatia. It's not as cheap as South America. Croatia's more money for like just everything in general, eating out and stuff. But you can go out, appetizer, two dinners, a bottle of wine, and at an amazing place, one of the best meals you're probably ever going to have in your life. And I want to say the grand total for the bill was like 65 bucks or something, 70 bucks.
Wow,
Um,
so it's super good.
yeah, yeah, like unbelievable. I mean, back home or anywhere, like if you went out to a nicer restaurant, like a regular crappy bottle of wine is going to be $50 for something that you paid 9.99 at the store for
Yeah,
alone. Um, and this is, a fresh local. We got great Dalmatian red or white wine, and then the whole meal. So that's my recommendation. If you're in Croatia, Split, go at least twice.